Hello everyone, Dave Fernandez here. I'm the founder of the Coach Your Way School and the author of the #1 factor that determines your success in business, which by the way you can get for free once you join our Facebook group, and I have a link in the description for you to do so a little later. Welcome to part 1 of how to start a successful coaching business. This is a 3-part video series where I'll be breaking down pretty much the business of coaching for you. Part 1, today's video, I'm going to be talking about the structure of the business, how to figure out the problems that you and only you can solve for people, how to define your ideal clients based on the problems that you can solve for them, how to structure your packages, your pricing, and your offer. And I'm even going to be sharing what some of the standard rates are for beginner coaches, so you have a ballpark idea of how much you want to charge at the beginning. In part number 2 of this series, I'm going to be talking about the sales process and the 2 things that must happen consistently in order for you to have a thriving practice. And in part 3, I'm going to be talking about the marketing process and how to consistently get qualified prospects that are ready to buy and eager to work with you. Okay, so if you're ready to learn more about how to start a successful coaching business, stick around because this video is for you. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this video is going to be all about how to structure your business. And in order to do that, the first thing that we need to do is figure out what are the problems that we can help people solve. What are those things that we have expertise on or that are natural in us that we can turn around and teach others so they too can have success in those areas? The best way to do this is by doing a simple exercise that I like to do with my clients, which is called listing out your assets. So what are your assets? Okay, so I want you to think about your assets as pretty much everything that you know or that have expertise on, or that things that you have done in the past. You don't necessarily have to be an expert, but you've been through a certain process and acquired a certain amount of knowledge about the topic, whatever that is. I want you to list that out on a piece of paper. And also some personal traits, such as I'm great at organizing, I'm great at planning, I'm great at eating healthy, exercising, saving money, sticking to a budget. List everything. Just do a personal inventory so you have a list of these things, something to work with. So that's the first step in structuring your business. So the second step would be to figure out who your ideal client is. And these would be as simple as just listing out a few traits that a person would have to have in order to be an ideal client for you. For example, well, first of all, they have to be looking for that solution, right? So it's a person that needs help getting organized, okay? So then you can elaborate a little bit, just using your mind and your logic. Okay, so what is this person going through and why would they be searching out for this type of service? What's going on in their lives? What type of life do they have? Are they married? Are they not married? Do they have pets? Maybe they have too many kids. Maybe they don't have a lot of time. So this is the problem solution part of the equation. Your ideal client has to be looking for what you're offering. In this case, your organizational skills, okay? Just to stick with that same example. What other trait would be ideal for your ideal client to have? Well, first of all, they have to have money. If they don't have money to pay for your services, then they're not an ideal client, right? So that's key. You may want someone who has a positive attitude. You may want someone who is somewhat of an action taker, even if it's in a different area. Keep listing out all the things that come to mind that you would like your ideal client to have, okay? We already listed out the top 2 things that pretty much, regardless of the service that you offer, an ideal client would have to have, which is, you know, they have the problem that you can solve, right? And they're looking for a solution for it. Right? And number 2, they have money to hire somebody to solve that problem for them. Now that you have figured out the problem or number of problems that you can help people solve in step number 1, and in step number 2, you have created an ideal client profile with pretty much the people that you want and can help, okay? And it's always your choice, never forget that. You choose who you want to work with. Now it's time to create an offer or a number of offers for your prospects to choose from when the time's right. So let's start with a call structure. And this is just pretty much you figuring out how many times you are going to want to talk to your clients once they buy in. Okay, is it going to be once a week, once every other week, once a month? Okay, what type of structure would actually fit your lifestyle and the way you want to structure your business, okay? So I'll tell you right from the get-go, standard practice is once a week, right? You meet for 60 minutes once a week. So that's 4 calls a month, 4 hours a month. That is actually a great place to start, and pretty much all coaches, they offer that as a standard package. And then what they do is offer variations of that package based on different pricing, different timings for the calls, or different frequency for the calls, depending on the client's needs. All these variations to the standard package is what's usually called or referred to as the coaching menu. And just think of it as going to a restaurant and being handed a menu. You have all these different meal options with different pricings, right? So there's something for everyone, pretty much, okay? Based off your standard package, which again would be, one 60-minute call a week. All right, so that's 4 calls a month. That would be your standard package. And then you can say package number 1 is 3 months of that. So it would be 12 calls altogether for each month. 12 calls of that is this price. Then you have variation number 1, which would be still 3 months of coaching, but instead of once a week, it'll be once every other week. Okay, so that's half the number of calls. It'll be 6 calls, and that's a different price. You can have a 45-minute call, you can have a 90-minute call, you can have 6 months, you can have a whole year, but standard is, you have your 3 months package, you have your 6 months package, and depending on what you're doing, you'll have a whole year. And by the way, if you're confused about any of this stuff, I created a free handout that you can download, again, for free. I have a link in the description. Just go ahead and get it, download it, so you can see all the notes for this training. And I attached a sample coaching menu for you to use freely. There's no copyrights or anything on that handout. You can use whatever it's in that handout in your practice. So that way you have a visual of what the coaching menu would look like, and you can just again, recreate that and attach it to an email or something when the time's right, and just, it's for you to have. And that leads me to the next step of structuring your coaching menu, which is the pricing. A lot of people ask online, how much a coach makes and how much our coaching session is, etc. So standard, and I'm gonna spill the beans here, and I'm sure a lot of people are gonna be mad at me for divulging all this information, when they're charging so much money for it. The standard rate for a coach is about $250 a session, okay? That would be $1,000 a month for 4 sessions, okay? So if you start with that, $1,000 a month for 4 sessions, then you can create different variations depending on your offers, okay? Not everybody's gonna be able to afford something like that, so then you have to create variations. For example, instead of 4 calls, you do the 2 calls, right? Once every other week for half the price. So for $500, somebody can get monthly training from you or coaching, only less time, okay? And another thing that I like to do too is that instead of doing 60-minute calls, I do 90-minute calls for those those other packages that are shorter, right? Because 60 minutes sometimes is not enough or whatnot, and it just allows you a little bit of leeway and freedom on the timing. You don't have to be looking at your watch 60 minutes or whatnot. So that's something that you do for the variations of your standard package. You just play with time, frequency, and money. Okay, so there's something for everyone, just like a restaurant menu. You don't want to be the coach that charges $10,000 a month but has no clients, okay? So, and I learned that the hard way. Believe me, when I first started, doing this, I was charging way too much for most people, and I wasn't flexible enough. And then I learned that I needed to be creative, and I invite you to be creative with your menu. Once you see the handout menu that I'm providing for free, again, the link is down in the description. Just download it, look at it, and then you'll see what I mean. You can get creative with that. You can do whatever you want. It's your practice. Use those the stuff in the handout as a guideline, right? But it is not set in stone, okay? Be flexible, adapt. A lot of people are gonna wanna work with you, believe it or not. You know, people that are looking for solutions, that are actively looking for solutions, will wanna work with you if they feel like you're the right person for them. A lot of people will have the barrier of money, so you wanna work with them. If they really wanna work with you, then you have to give them options, okay? So just something to keep in mind. I think is a tip that I wish somebody had given me at the beginning. Okay, so just be flexible and, you know, work with a client. If you're completely new to coaching, I suggest you watch another video I made called What is a Life Coach? What does a life coach do? And what is coaching all about? And I have a link up here for you to do so after you finish watching this video. In my next video, which is part 2 of this 3-part video series, I'm gonna be talking about the sales process and the 2 things that must happen consistently in order for you to first have a business and second, to be able to grow it. So if you haven't yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when that video is available. And please don't forget to check out the video that I mentioned to you earlier, and also this one, which I know you love, on how to become a life coach. And until next time, I wish you all the best, and let's get out there and start changing lives one session at a time. See ya.